that's really usable, but that one thing is where the value of the whole program was. So I'm just asking you now to be mindful of what might be that one thing that you could get out of this that would make this a really valuable part of your week. Okay. And this is food for thought. We could focus on a learning task for 25 to 30 minutes before we start drifting a little bit. We can always come back to it, but that's about where we're at. So if you feel like you're drifting, that's understandable. This is material that's usually in a 4 to 5 hour workshop. We're kind of boiling it down and also sprinting through it, but I want to I want to make sure you get what's useful for you. So stay as focused as you can. Please ask questions as we go, and there we are. So you can tell me, you can tell yourself, you can just think about this. Gotta move this over a little bit. There we go. What do you think about your stress, your time management challenges? When do they become problems? When they do become problems, what do they cost you? Not only in revenue or tangible things, but in the way of health, in the way of effectiveness, efficiency. And what would it mean to you if you could control your stress, control your overwhelm, control your time and priorities, and feel like it was not attacking you, but you were using them. And this is a little exercise that, again, if it was a longer workshop, we could go through and talk about, and maybe even break up into small groups. But anybody have anything that they want to toss out here? Otherwise, we can keep going.
I'll just throw this out there.
Yeah.
they become problems for me even before I start my day, even before I start my work day. Like if I feel that I have too much to do, I don't even know where to start. And so yeah. And because I feel that way, I procrastinate, or I like get caught up in little itty bitty things to do. I just feel frazzled.
Yeah. Are you working from home?
I'm working from home and from La Suprema.
Yeah. So.
And I'm not working full time. I should specify that. I'm working part time right now.
Yeah, sometimes that whole thing, I've been there, and sometimes it can be brought in by change. I know a lot of folks I've talked with have that same feeling. What do I do? What do I do first? And they're spinning around rather than getting traction. Yeah. And it happened for a lot of them at the time when they started working out of their home offices, rather than having that ritual of going somewhere, leaving where they're from, their home, and having that rut routine. And so that's why I asked. But yeah, it's when you get up and you're already spinning, it's tough to get traction and get going.
Yeah.
So, and there's sorry.
Yeah, no, but that's not every day, but it's often.
Yep. Often enough to be a pain, right?
Right.
Yep.
I have to say that I have the same exact issue, and it becomes the to-do list, like that never ends.
Exactly.
Task after task after task, and maybe you'll scratch 1 or 2 things off, but then there's 10 more things added, and that adds to, I think, this whole anxiety about how do we move forward from there.
Yeah, and with a lot of to-do lists, if you look at them and analyze them, they tend to be, again, tactical rather than strategic. If you go through and you say, what are the 3 most important strategies or things that I could do for myself, my business, wherever your focus is that day, and break those tactics down by the ones that are going to have the greatest positive impact on your biggest strategies. Sometimes those to-dos, it helps you delegate, helps you set some things aside, but that's kind of another conversation, but that's a way of looking at it anyway, a little bit. Anyone else?
That's great. I just want to say I echo what Leellen and Liz said. Definitely can feel the overwhelm with like just the running task list. You're like,
Yep.
am I ever caught up? And feeling like I feel like I'm very optimistic too. So I think that I can get a lot done in a little amount of time. And so I'm like,
Yep.
yay, there's so many opportunities here. But then it becomes an issue of prioritization. So I'm excited to hear more about that from you, because there's times where I'm like, I want to do it all, and I just need some focus and help on figuring out what is the next right thing to do.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. I've been there. It's bad when I have this to-do list and the first thing I do the next morning is to move, 3/4 of the stuff
Yeah.
that I didn't do over to today from yesterday. So, and there you are again, you're right back in it.
I like.
Okay. So let me just give you a quick background. I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but kind of how I came to this approach. I started off, I have some ADHD issues in my family, and became interested in that while I was doing coaching with some small business owners and leaders. And the more I found out about it, I found that there's a lot of people, including a lot of my clients, and myself probably to some degree, that have some ADHD tendencies. ADHD is not like being pregnant. It's not like you either are or you're not. It's on a scale or a slide, kind of what's the word? It's like a polar thing where you can go from very much to very little.
Like a spectrum.
Spectrum. Yeah. Thanks. Good thing you're here to save me. So with ADHD, it's a neurodevelopmental genetic thing. It is a real thing. It's in your brain, prefrontal cortex, where the executive functions are, curiously enough. But in my studies and my working with people, I came across a couple of doctors, Ned Hallowell, Barkley, Brown, some others. And Hallowell primarily had done some research with executives in high stress positions and found that they exhibit the same characteristics and symptoms as people with ADHD. And it's brought on totally by the environment and the stress that they're under. And so that's what I started finding and seeing in some of the people I was working with. And so that kind of got me going to draw some further correlations between ADHD, ADT, or attention deficit trait, or just stress and overwhelm is what most of us call it. And most of us, suffer from that when we get overstressed and overwhelmed, and it shows up in our work. Both ADHD and ADT are executive function disorders. Now, you guys probably do you know about executive function, what that is and all that? I'll walk through it quickly. There's a place in your brain called the prefrontal cortex, and that's where what they call executive functions are controlled. So it goes to other, and basically what this is, it's a system that tells us what to do, when to do it, how to stick to it, and how to get to the end. So it's everything. If you talk about goal setting, or you talk about accomplishing things, or you talk about lists, it's everything that we need to decide what should go on that list, how to prioritize, how to attack it, and then how to get it done. So when we are under stress and overwhelm, it's one of a chemical called cortisol. We make more of it, and that's the kind of the flight or fight chemical. When we're up, when we were living in caves and stuff, if a saber-toothed tiger came along, it's that fight or flight thing. Everything else drops, and we're just on self-protection, either running, fighting, doing what we need to do. But over time, if then it's over. We either get eaten, or the animal is gone, or we fight it off, whatever, and it's done. When we're under stress, it's there all the time. It's there every day. And so we're producing that cortisol and other chemicals, and it inhibits our executive function. It takes away from that part of our brain toward our self-protection, flight or fight mechanisms. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So we are Next. So there are 7 areas of executive function, and the first one is self-awareness. And so think about this. I'm just going to go through these kind of quickly, but think about how these might be showing up in your stress, how you might be impacted or less efficient in these areas when you're under stress. So this has to do with how aware you are of yourself, your feelings, your thoughts, your strengths, your talents, your challenges. There's a line in them, I think it's the Matrix, where the guy's looking out the window, the alien guy or the robot guy, and there's all these people going around, and he says something like, look at them, Mr. Anderson. They're just wandering around out there. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know why they're doing it. They're just going through the paces. And stress can reduce our self-awareness to the level where we just go through the paces. We don't know what we're doing. Okay. And if there's questions, if you want to go into any of these deeper, just let me know and we can do that. Number 2 is inhibition. How aware you are and how well you control your emotions. So it seems to be the thing to do at the time, becomes a reason to do stuff rather than kind of knee-jerk reactions rather than responses. We become more reactive rather than responsive when we're under stress. We just want it out of our hair. We want to get on with things. And again, this plays with the self-awareness, but it's inhibition problem. Oops, sorry. Next one is nonverbal working area. This is an area in your brain that gives us the ability to store, recall, and use nonverbal information about faces or shapes or images or sounds, everything from our past that we remember and can apply to today. Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't miss something here. Okay, next. Oops, I'm sorry. Number 4, verbal working memory. This is our ability to remember past events, past experiences, facts, and sequences, and to apply them to the present. Sequences is important because it tells us the tactics come after strategy, right? This is the way we put something together. And sometimes that goes out the window when our verbal working memory is impaired, and stress can do that. Sorry. Lost my. Oh, yeah, I apologize.
No worries. I think
Okay.
we were on number 5.
Yeah.
There we go. There it
There's
is.
6, self-motivation. The ability to motivate yourself to start a task, stay focused, remain motivated, and complete that task. So that plays into the thing where you get up in the morning, you're not sure what to do. There's so much to do that you don't know where to start first. And so you get no traction on any of it. You just spin your wheels. Okay. And then number 7, emotional self-regulation. This is the ability to use past experiences and information to create. No, that's not. That's a typo. I apologize for that. It's an old slide that transferred in here. Emotional self-regulation is all about relationships. It's about being able to control anger, anxiety, every emotion that we feel, so that we can manage our relationships. This shows up a lot in team. When there's a lot of stress, teams tend to lose that collaborative piece and go into the I, me, mine piece, and and people get angry, they get on edge, it's counterproductive to a team working together. Okay, so those are the 7 areas, and so how that shows up is when your brain is trying to deal with, you know, your sixth decision of the day after your fifth interruption, while you're searching for the ninth missing piece of data on the same day that your fourth deal is crashed and burned, your inbox is nagging you, your cell phone's blasting off, your social media, you know, you're getting the alerts on your social media. Your brain just becomes overwhelmed and executive function goes out the window. You fall into that flight or fight thing, and it's about survival rather than executing at a high level. Okay.
This is really resonating.
Yeah.
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 Comments, questions here?
Yeah, definitely resonating. And I don't have any sound effects. I mean, I try to turn all my notifications off so that as a way to control some of that.
Yep. And so how does that work?
It works pretty well in terms of like keeping me out of social media.
Okay.
And definitely, I mean, it doesn't work as well with email just because so much of my work gets done with email, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you know, even there, I don't get notified when new messages come in, which is helpful.
Yep.
And yeah, same thing. It definitely helps. It helps a lot.
Okay, good.
But yeah, there's that to-do list.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how does stress and overwhelm show up in your work? I think you were just talking about that. And this is something I developed called the executive wheel of function, with a tip of the hat to Pat Sajak, I guess. And these are the 7, you probably can't see my thing behind me because you're looking at the screen, but these are the areas that we just went through, tends to show up this way at work. Traction and momentum, you know, getting up, how do I get going? What do I get going on? Am I spinning my wheels? Organizing, planning, setting priorities, managing time, sustaining attention, problem solving, creative thinking, managing relationships, and shifting focus to balance your work and your home life. A lot of people, how often do you find yourself sitting at home at midnight, you know, answering emails because there wasn't enough time, or taking time away from one thing to spend it on work stuff, or vice versa, and losing all balance in your life. So I created a thing called what I call the executive wheel of function. And if I can share it on the screen, I can.
Yeah, I'm trying to drop it into the chat box as well, Jim. Since
Okay. Okay.
I'm working on that right now. Yeah.
Okay. So what I did is create, it's a circle, and there is a section of the circle for each one of those topics.
Mm-hmm.
And as I sit down with the client, ask them to rate themselves. It's kind of a self-rating thing from 0 to 10. How do you feel about where you're at with that particular topic? And so then you rate each one. 0 is closest to the hub of the wheel, 10 is closest to the outside. Rate each one 0 to 10. And then connect the dots. And that will give you kind of if it was a tire, you'd be going down the street, probably kind of thumping and bouncing, because usually it's kind of an up and down kind of a thing. But the goal here is not, you know, the goal is not to make everything a 10, although that's, you know, that would be a good goal, I guess. The value of the wheel is to give you the self-awareness of where you're at in each category. Because then once you know, it's like using a Google map, right? The thing always wants to know where you are now to tell you how to get to where you're going. It's kind of a pain, but you have to do that. And this gives you a roadmap of where you are now, so you can get to where you want to go. And you can say, I'm at a 3, say, on sustaining my attention, So I want to work on that. Or maybe I'm at a 3 at sustaining attention, but that's okay now because I have a lot going on. It's fast stuff, and I need to move through it and get it all done. So awareness is the gift of that wheel.
Yep.
Okay. And then, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
An update. I wasn't able to share it since it's a PDF. It's not allowing me to
Oh,
into the chat box. But if you have a shareable link, we can share it, and I can always send it out via email. So I'll send it out through the recording for sure.
Can you see it if I open it?
I can see it right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there it is. Executive wheel function tells you how to do it. Happy to send this out. Happy to talk with you if you have questions about it. But that's the deal. So 0 is in here in the U area. 10 is out on the far reaches of the wheel. And you go through. And sometimes these are broad categories. So there may be specifics within each one of them that is more relates to you personally. And it's interesting if you have teams you work with, it's interesting to sit down with the team, have each person fill it out, and then compare notes. And a lot of time team conflict comes from different people being in different places on this wheel, and also valuing the places, putting a different value on each one of those places.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a tool. Knowledge to me is not power. It's more of a medium. It's like a lump of clay. What are you going to make with that knowledge? So this gives you some knowledge and gives you some options to see what you want to do with it.
If you're at La Suprema, y'all, I can print this out and we can do this together if you'd like. If we want to find some time.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions on that? Nope. Okay. So these are some strategies. Once you've gone through that wheel and you know this a little bit, and you know what's important to you and where you're at. And again, these tend to be more, they're strategies, but they tend to be more tactical strategies. And I guess the reason they get tactical here is because it's tough to, it's easier to generalize when you're working with people who you haven't sat down and gone through the exercise with. But if I was in the coaching situations where I'm working one-on-one or with a team, and we fill those things out, talk about them, see what people think are important and are the biggest challenges and the ones they really want to work on, then you can get more specific. But in a more tactical way, especially not creating opportunities for human interaction over tech interaction. Getting enough sleep, eating fewer fast digesting carbs, exercising, whether that's lifting or HIIT or cardio. Plan your life and your work, and then live and work your plan. Become master, power the pause. That's a little thing that has been effective. It's just a little pause thing, and you may have tried it. Worked with people who are really type A's and real pushers and drivers, and in between tasks, even things like talking on their phone and then jumping to the computer, creating a 15, 20, 30-second place there where they make an intentional gap and just breathe and be aware of what you just did and what you're going to do. Could go, to walking down the hall to get a cup of coffee, taking that break, creating little breaks or segues. It's like, someone a musician friend of mine told me that you can read the notes in the music, but that's not what makes the music. What makes it are the rests and the spaces in between. Otherwise, it'd just be a big sound. And so those little pauses in between activities, I think, can give you power to that activity, help you kind of say, okay, that's done. I've got that. And just process quickly what you need to do with it, if anything, from then, and then go on to the next thing. So the power of the pause. And the other thing is, I was put in a shameless plug, hired a coach. So those are some things that, or don't. Those are some things that generally people can do. But again, it's it's so specific, and you know, you guys are capable of, once you have the knowledge of and identifying where it's specifically hurting you, each one of those areas, you can go in and set some strategies and tactics to take care of that. Questions here?
That's great. I really love the anecdote you shared about music. I think that's really beautiful.
I do too.
Yeah, I can't take credit for it. I can't even remember who it was. One of my music people friends, and I don't know which one. They were talking too much. But yeah, it's the spaces in between. You know, you hear that. It's just even in talking. That's what makes our language work. Is that it's the spaces in between. That's an old Chinese thing too, where they talk about a cup, and that it's the cup itself, the material that might make it valuable, whether it's made out of gold or wood or clay, but it's the emptiness, the space inside, that makes it useful, right?
Yeah.
So those little spaces, the places we can find those little spaces, you know, that can help. Yeah.
Go ahead,
What are
Alex.
some fast digesting carbs that you recommend to stay away from? Just seeing
Potato
that.
chips, fries. I don't myself, I don't eat a lot of carbs. I lift, so that I have kind of a weird diet, but I go on things that are going to be slower, like, oatmeal, brown rice,
Yeah.
sweet potatoes, beans to some degree, different kinds of beans, certainly green vegetable, broccoli and spinach and asparagus and, peppers, stuff like that, rather than cream sauces on hollandaise sauce on asparagus. So yeah, so the carbs, the chips, the snacks, that stuff tends to make you sluggish, brain wise as well as physically, and so it just kind of adds to the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a nutritionist, so
No, but it's still helpful. I mean, it's still just helpful.
Yeah,
It's a great reminder.
yeah. And I know just from lifting, doing martial arts, that if I have like a heavy pizza and a heavy carb, if I was running a mile, it'd probably be different. Pasta would be great if I was out doing a marathon. But just from eating the night before, what it translates into my workout, and sometimes not on a good basis, and I can usually translate back that sluggishness to something that I ate, night before, day before, or something.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah. Which it goes back to like when you do feel stress and you feel like you have a million things on your plate. I'm like, it's like, oh, I'll just order takeout, or I'll just grab this. It's easier to make a sandwich than it is a salad sometimes, So
Yep. So if you know that, then you can, what can you do to kind of preempt that? I have some protein bars that I use for that kind of stuff, where it's high protein, very low carb. What can you do if you know where your triggers are going to be and where your stumbling blocks are? Then that gives you that's information, and that gives you the material you need to create another plan.
Yeah.
So just being proactive about it.
Yeah, all of this really, really resonates.
Good.
Especially for me, all of it does, but especially the creating opportunities for human interaction, as opposed to interaction with technology, and and becoming a master at the power of the pause. I honestly, I just can't handle a lot of screen time. And like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's, if I spend my entire day, or even, if I spend my entire day on a screen, it makes me crazy. It makes me miserable. And, I've learned a lot. I know a lot more about myself now than I did when I was, starting my career.
Sure.
Obviously. One would hope that you learn. and it's just amazing to me. And I kind of struggle with it now because like, I don't know what to do. What kind of work can I do that is meaningful and will be, reasonably lucrative, that does not involve being on a screen all day.
Are you in a place where you can break that up at all, or do that
Yes,
in
I am.
chunks?
Luckily for me, I am. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So
I think this is a societal problem.
it is, but it's I think solved. It may be societal problem, but it's solved individually.
Mhm.
So if there's some things we can't necessarily all do we won't do together. I'll put it that way. So you have to kind of find out what works for you. Part of the questions I would ask you is, you said it makes you miserable. So what is that? What is miserable? What is that? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What is that? What is that? And tell me more about that. And then what would be some benefits you get out of breaking up your screen time? How if you were going to do that, how much would you have to break it up? How long would pauses be in between
Yeah.
sessions? What would that look like? How would that change your day and your overall impact? And how would you tackle that? So, and have conversations about that. So,
Cool.
but all this stuff, it's like you go into a bookstore, used to go into a bookstore, right? And you go to the
Yeah.
self-help section, and it's like the biggest section in the bookstore. And you stand there and you look and you think, well, if any of these actually worked, you'd only need one. You wouldn't need
Right.
like all of these. Here's our self-help section. It's a book, and the reason is because we try to take it out of a book rather than the solutions out of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sometimes the problem. We try to lay something else on top of us rather than bringing it out. And that takes some introspection. It takes a willingness to invest time into self-awareness and self-knowledge, knowing yourself. But it might give you something that actually works long term.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's very real. That was, I
yeah.
haven't heard it been put like that before, but it's so true. There are so many self-help books out there, but we're really the best one, right? Ourselves. So.
We always think somebody else has our answer better than we do, right? And so we can I just need that course. I just need this book. I just need that exercise. I just need one more piece of equipment or one more. And what if you were on like a desert island and you just had to do with what's there and what you had in you? You would find a lot more than you think. It's like the Transformers, right? More than meets the eye. So I think that's true with every one of us. We have to be willing to go there and do that work rather than do the work of running around chasing other people's stuff.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Great.
anyway, anything else?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Questions, comments? No. So, okay. So then what I would typically do with each section in that wheel would be, depending on what client wants to work on, have an approach to each section that we would work on. And as an example, one of those is time. And so I just took that section out of there because we were talking about time and priority management. And this kind of will work with priority management. So the approach to time management is, why do you want time management? What's it costing you to be running around, or what's it like now to live with time and the way that you're managing time? What's it costing you? What are you getting out of it? Because you're getting something out of it to keep doing it, right? We need a reason. We always need a reason to change. Sometimes that reason can be because we're bruised and battered. Sometimes that reason can be because we're getting something out of it. So what is it that you're getting out of it? Why do you want to change? And how motivated are you to change your method of managing time? Scale 1 to 10. If you're not at least a 7 or 8, then you're probably not going to change it because it's not hurting, or it's not a big enough issue that you need, that you're going to want to change it. Step number 2, spend some quality time with your time is what I say. And that means I ask clients to go through and start charting what they do and doing it every 15 minutes. Half an hour won't work. It's too big a space. Too much stuff gets lost. I want to know when you just, jump on YouTube and kind of drift from what you went there for to watching some other kind of video. Want to know that in 15-minute increments. And it's tough to do, especially busy people, but it's mining information so that you have that at your disposal to build something new with. Then go through after you've done that for at least a couple of weeks, probably a month is better, a couple of weeks works. Go back and stand back and say, okay, where are the categories I've been spending my time in? You will find, I'd be willing to bet that there are categories that you're spending a lot of time in that you don't necessarily realize that you're spending the time there. May be productive, may not be, but you just kind of break it out and analyze it. See what parts of that day, week, month are working for you, are moving you towards your most important strategic goals, which ones are not, which ones you can, and this is just a kind of a flyby of this whole thing. Which ones are working for you, which ones aren't, which ones you want to delegate or can delegate, which ones you can drop, and what aren't you having time for? What is important to you, or your goals that you're not giving time to because you're giving time to something else. And then the 4th step is to look at your ideal day, your ideal week, your ideal year, your life. If it was an ideal day, what would that look like? How would you be spending it? What time? When would you get up? What would you do? To do an overlay of how you're spending it now, because now you've got that information, and you can kind of do this is what I would like information, compare the two, and then you can go on the business of how do I get from point A to point B again. It's back to the Google Maps thing, right? You've got step 1, 2, and 3 kind of lays out where you are. Step 4 is where you want to go. And then it's a matter of creating bridges to get over those gaps. Okay. Questions on any of that?
Sounds powerful.
Okay. And I have an ebook on this whole time management thing. I'm happy to send out if you would. It's like 34, 35, 36 pages, something. But it's got the little logs in there, and it's got everything. So if I'm more than happy to share that if you think it would do you some good, let me know. Let Alex know. However that works.
Perfect. Yeah, as this goes, Jim, I have everyone's contact emails here, so everything that you're offering, you can send over to me, and I will send out to everyone. So
perfect.
Yeah, so you guys won't have to ask me for it. I'll just include it all. So it's all there bundled together in one email.
Yeah, and then if anyone has questions or stumbles, something doesn't look right, or you have, I don't know, questions, concerns about it, you can, either talk to Alex and she'll get a hold of me and we can get together, or jump on my website and shoot me an email or whatever. More than happy to talk with you about it.
That's so great. Thanks for that offer, Jim. I will include your email so people can reach out to you if you're good with that. Okay.
This is going, and I don't know that we're going to have time to go in depth in every one of these steps. But this is, I guess this is like a 4 or 5 hour deal, but I wanted to at least introduce one of the time management part and how we would approach that, how we tend to approach that from a coaching standpoint. And then each one of those sections has an approach that we take to try to deal, coach through it and help people get more control of whether it's getting traction or relationships or whatever. So again, what are your why? What are your frustrations with time? What are the negative impacts? What's it costing you? What will it mean when your time frustrations evaporate? Really important to feel and think about on any change. What's it going to be like? What's it going to mean to you once you make the change? What are the benefits it will bring to your work and your life, and the value? What and put that in as real terms as you can, whether it's revenue, whether it's lost hours of sleep or gained, or an ability to learn something that you didn't have time to learn before. Try to make it real world, and drill down into it as deep as you can. Compare your two lists, find the 3 most important items in each list, and use a 1 to 10 scale to rate the importance of gaining mastery over your time. Okay. And again, the motivation piece is important. If it's not a 7 or more than a 7, probably you haven't found strong enough reasons to change. Okay. Step 2, the quality of your time. Log all your activities, 15-minute increments. Don't judge or change your routine. Just do what you do. Use some kind of a spreadsheet or work doc, or even a pen and piece of paper, journal, whatever, to log everything. Using your computerized appointment calendar probably isn't good enough. You need 15-minute increments. Anything, hours, half hours, hunks, hunks of your day. Even if you're in a meeting, there are going to be parts of that meeting that are more worthwhile to you than others. There are going to be times when it bogs down, or there's small talk, or there's whatever. Use that to log that too in your 15-minute increments, because it will give you some insights maybe on how to run better meetings, or encourage someone else to run better meetings. So assess your time. What we talked about, which activities are not strategic or at your pay grade. What do you connect with your top initiatives and performance metrics? What can you delegate? What are time wasters? What are you doing at level A when level B is fine? Entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people in business for themselves with, and with the drive to get out and have an office space and do work like you all do, tend to be perfectionists. And there are some times when being a perfectionist, making something perfect, is overkill. Sometimes good is good, and it doesn't need to be great. And that's hard to hear, and sometimes harder to deal with. But what's overkill, and what are you doing that to an A level that a B level would be plenty good, so we'll give you more time for other things.
That's a really and very, very important. Well, it resonates with me intensely.
Yeah.
Jim, because I feel like I always want to put my best foot forward, my best face forward. And my business is a reflection of myself, of my brand. Yep. And so, but I've learned over the years that, and I do have this motto that I heard from someone, that imperfect action is better than perfect inaction.
Yeah. And that's great.
Yeah. And better is the enemy of good. I learned from a surgeon.
Yep. Yeah, there's a law of diminishing returns. At some point those cross, and you're the judge of where that point is. But at some point, I worked in advertising for a long time, and we would sit and putz on the creative end, and we could sit and putz with ideas, with copy, and tweak it and tweak visuals. And thank goodness for deadlines, because no ads would get out, nothing would get done, because we would just keep tweaking it, right? But it's got to go to press, it's got to be on the air, it's got to be wherever, and then you go, okay, you got to cut bait on it at some point. So
that's right. Yes.
Again, where could you be more efficient, and what other things do you know? Sometimes what comes out of looking at your time, it's some aha moments that you see things that are not included in that list, and you're just gonna, I don't know, you're going to pick up on, and it'll be important to you. So step 4, create your ideal day and week. How long is your ideal day and week? Are you working 6 day, 7 day weeks, 3 or 4 day weeks? And how do you generally in people who are most successful with this time thing tend to set periods of times or days or periods of days where you work on business initiatives, where you work on your business, where you work on yourself, where you're resting, recharging, reflecting, thinking about things, analyzing things, and those happen better and more efficiently when you have specific times that you do them, rather than just saying, well, I'll get to that when I get done with this or not. Writing stuff, I have to set aside writing time or I don't get to it in my own stuff. I'll do other stuff first. So working on my own stuff is always gets shoved to the end. So I have to set aside time to do it. Otherwise it won't get done. And I'm guessing it might be true for you too. And then how do you, what behaviors do you need to stop? What behaviors are not serving you? They'll show up in your time study. What behaviors might be useful to you that you need to start? Which ones should you do more of, do less of, analyze it from a behavioral standpoint? And also, how do you manage interruptions? You know, can you stop interruptions that derail you? Can you budget them? Can you, if you have the same client who calls you, even though they don't have an appointment, at a certain time or certain day or sometime during the week, and you know that's going to happen, log in some time for that. Try to pre-plan your interruptions if possible. Okay. And what other steps could you take to improve your success? How could you make your environment more conducive to time management? How could you make your role, do more of the things that are strategic for your role? This is a big deal. Work with some nurse managers. And it's so easy for them because they're caregivers at heart to get back into caring for people rather than the business of the management role. And that's true in a lot of service professionals who have done something and then try to grow into a management or leadership role. It's hard to get rid of that, or to give up some of that that hands-on stuff. But it isn't that strategic. They're the things you can give up. How do you prevent or eliminate, running around just putting out fires all day? What meetings can you eliminate, combine, or delegate? There's other things there probably too. So, oops. We're getting close to time here, so I'm gonna. Well, again, what technologies could help you with time management? Some people do well putting their calendar on a phone. Some people still need to, do better with a paper thing. What skills do you need to develop that would help you manage your time, manage your priorities better? Do you need to be able to learn how to say no? Do you have to learn to negotiate better, manage projects, relaxation skills, meditation, whatever? What structural issues need to be addressed to give you leverage? Changing roles. Work with solopreneur who was just overwhelmed, and we actually created all roles, like job descriptions for each of the things she was doing. And she had like an entire C-suite of people that she was filling roles for. And so it gives you an appreciation for all the things that you're doing, and also gives you some idea of who could you outsource things to, or who could you hire that would be the biggest benefit to you.
I think a lot of people on this call can relate to wearing many hats and feeling like they fill many roles. So
yeah. And sometimes if you have the idea that you want to be a solopreneur and that's what you want to do, a freelancer, whatever, that's great. Some people have the idea they want to grow into a business. So start now. When you're doing all those hats, start breaking that into roles. You'll see what the most important roles is, where you spend most of your time, which ones have the biggest impact on your business, and then start writing, job descriptions for them. Because you may, as you hire people, your business grows, nice to have that up front so you don't hire someone you hire the most important roles first rather than, something else. All right. When will you schedule time to focus on yourself? It's so important to schedule time. even, you know, at the beginning of the day, some time just to spend time with yourself, as well as recharging, rejuvenating. And then, you know, it's always good to have support. So if you're making some changes, you've identified those changes, who can support you, helping you keep to your new schedule, your new role, so you don't fall back into the way things are. It's easy to fall back into that rut, right? So, and how are you going to be held accountable? Always try to, you know, SMART goals, right? So that things are measurable. So you can say, this is what I want to do, by when, by how much. Otherwise it gets soft if you don't have specifics to measure, right? You just, well, I want to use my time better.
Mm.
What does that mean? What does that mean specifically? Okay. So what ideas, strategies do you have? Oops. How and when will you implement them? How will you measure your success? Those are things that's always try to close coaching calls with, because it's, you know, it's you can say, oh man, great session, we got a lot out of it, blah blah blah. But unless you say, you know, what are you going to do with this? What are you going to do right now, today, from this session that's going to help you get towards where you want to be? You know, that's what's really going to make the thing valuable. So I just invite you to spend some time to think about that and see where you want to go, how you want to get there, and what specifically you're going to do with it. So that's it. Got through it. Thank you. Questions, comments? I hope there's some value in this for you all.
So much value. First of all, thank you so much, Jim. There were some like just wonderful nuggets of wisdom in there. I mean, the whole thing was super valuable, but there's like a lot of things that are really sticking with me today, especially around like taking pauses and the A versus B work, a lot of that, and like how are you actually spending each 15-minute increment of time? It's all super valuable and important.
I know.
Thank you so much.
Questions or concerns or from anyone else?
Does anyone have any other questions that they want to ask right now, or we have this time together?
Can't think of any right now.
Okay. All right.
I think we were able to ask a lot throughout, which totally makes sense. I think this was such a wonderful space today. I truly have felt the adrenaline, the flight or fight like response since I think yesterday. So to take this hour, truly, it's like very elevated. I personally feel much more grounded, just like taking time. And I did my absolute best to not even look at my phone during this. So which, you know, was a challenge, right? So
Yep.
it felt really, really good to just like focus on the people in front of me and the topic at hand. Right. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you all for showing up. I hope it was useful. You get some value out of it. I will, Alex, I'll send you that ebook. And then, so if anybody wants a copy of that, you just ask Alex. And if there's anything I can do to support what you're trying to get done, let me know. Send me an email, whatever. I'm happy to talk about it. And I'm not looking to charge anything. I'm just looking for you to get some value out of the time that you've invested today.
Very helpful. Thank you so much, Jim. And
Okay.
I look forward to the ebook. Is there an email that we can email you at? Or
yeah, email is James, James Grossman, Grossman at fullforwardcoaching.com. Or there's also a contact thing on my website, fullforwardcoaching.com, that you can fill out that to you, whatever works for you.
Yep.
And Alex, you'll send it to us too.
Yes, I just posted it to this chat, but I'm also going to send it in the email with this recording, as well as the ebook and the worksheet. So the wheel worksheet. So you'll get all of it, and it'll probably be within the next 24 hours, maybe today, maybe tomorrow. But you'll have.
Thank you so much.
You got it. Thank you all for joining. I'm glad that this worked out promoting you on a panelist. I really enjoyed being able to hear your voices and make this more of an open discussion. So thank you all for your participation and engagement. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, and Jim, thank you times a million.
Oh, yeah.
We're so lucky to have you today. Really, really fortunate. So glad we were able to make this happen. So thank you.
My
so
pleasure.
much.
My pleasure. Thanks so much. Been nice to be with all of you. And again, if I can do anything, let me know.
All right, perfect. All righty, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rest of your day. Take care of yourselves.
You too.
We'll see you soon.
We'll
Yep.
see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, Jim, thank you.
Thank
Truly,
you. Thank you.
This was wonderful.
Yeah.
Really needed.
Good. Well, I hope they get something out of it and it's, you know, they can put to work and get some benefit.